All right. So this week over in the UK, in England, there's the Download Festival for 2024 happening from Friday and up until Sunday, which is this morning, me recording this. Uh, and of course, Download's a massive festival. It goes on every year, pulling a lot of massive bands and artists from kind of all over the genre spectrum. But this year, there's been a lot more of a story with this when it comes to politics and humanitarian focuses and boycotts and things of that nature because of one of the major sponsors, Barclays, which is a bank that bankrolls Israeli weapons manufacturers and is complicit in the ongoing escalation of violence and genocide in Gaza, and not just Gaza, but also all of the violent acts that Israel has done in the West Bank and Lebanon and Syria, and all these different places. And so I thought it would be interesting to dive into what happened over this past weekend, and the collective pressure that worked in getting Download Festival Live Nation to drop Barclays as a sponsor for Download Festival, and what that might even mean for the company going forward with their sponsorships of Live Nation events and festivals. So first, I wanted to dive into a little bit of this article from a couple weeks back or a week or so back that kind of talks about some of the earlier bands of what that kind of spearheaded this protest here and this boycott. So let's go ahead and jump into this here. All right, so it says Scowl, Speed, Zulu, and more announced Palestine benefit show after dropping off Download Fest. Scowl dropped off of both South by Southwest and Welcome to Rockville due to both festivals' military connections, and now Scowl, Zulu, Speed, and Pest Control had dropped off Download Festival due to its Barclays sponsorship. So again, Scowl had started this with South by Southwest and has really shown a lot of principle in who they're willing to play with and what sponsorships they're willing to have their festivals that they play with be a part of. And it was interesting to have them come up with this sort of Palestinian benefit show in the wake of several bands dropping off of Download Festival because of Barclays sponsorship. So again, shout out to Scowl, Zulu, Speed, Pest Control. We also have just a few days before Download Festival, we had Dying Wish, which is one of my favorite metalcore bands I found out about over the past several years, say either Download will drop the Barclays sponsorship or we will be dropping the festival. We will not be involved without it. We appreciate your patience over the last few days as we sort this out. Shout out to every band and person involved in the boycott and Free Palestine. Dying Wish, at least Emma, I know from her socials and things of that nature, has always been pretty vocal about Palestine. I think her username on Twitter is still Free Palestine. And so as much as sometimes it seems like bands might not be using their platforms endlessly to talk about the Palestinian struggle or sharing videos constantly or whatever maybe some people want them to do that are really about this movement, it is important to remember that behind the scenes they might be applying pressure like this. And their further statement they had about this that I thought was great says, Download has informed us that they have officially removed Barclays as a sponsorship from their festival. We will be playing tomorrow as scheduled. So again, they were able to play after they kind of put this announcement out. We never wanted to let anyone down and celebrate the news that the boycott was successful. Huge thank you to everyone who was involved in making this possible. We appreciate the understanding and support as we stand by something that truly matters to us. We are so proud to be a part of a community that can come together and create change. That being said, we cannot wait. See you tomorrow, 4:40 p.m. on the Dogfood stage with Love, Solidarity, and Free Palestine Forever. So again, this band's always been on the right side of history with this, especially Emma, who's been very vocal about this in the past, far before October 7th and the escalation that's been going on the last several months. So great to see that. I think this one is kind of what broke the straw that broke the camel's back because of how huge this band is, especially in the UK. But we can look at Enter Shikari's statement on this, which, again, people, I think, sometimes justifiably see these bands that are vocal about issues as Enter Shikari, as Dying Wishes. You know, you can name off several other hardcore, metalcore, alternative bands. And it seems like sometimes they're not kind of jumping on the train of endlessly posting about Palestine, which again, there's an argument that says, you could probably raise a lot more mutual aid if you did endlessly and things of that nature. But this is a big example of how bands with the pull like this can kind of do this with their own influence in sort of the business back end of things that is in a lot of ways more impactful. So again, this is from Enter Shikari. They said Barclays has pulled out of Download. There's been mounting pressure for bands to drop out of Download Festival due to the involvement of Barclays Bank. We have been in talks with Download themselves, expressing our serious objection of Barclays' involvement. We have considered all options and, along with other artists, have been working tirelessly on this. We don't believe in rushed reactions and always want the best outcome for all involved. Thanks to this collective pressure, we now believe we have achieved that. Barclays has pulled out of Download Festival. For those unaware, Barclays has large financial ties to the Israeli weapons manufacturers and therefore is complicit in genocide and has no place at our festivals. Big ups, Download and bands boycott Barclays, who both engaged with us in a calm and considered manner while this was being resolved. This is what we can achieve when we work together instead of dividing ourselves with attempts at moral purity. There are many understandable positions on this. Don't be malicious and don't be divided. It does not help the cause. We will continue to take our direction from the Palestinian-led BDS campaign and urge others to do the same. They have posted a focused list of companies to target with boycotts. Even though Barclays isn't on the list, it is still a genocide complicit entity, and we support all actions that apply pressure on Barclays to withdraw its investments in Israeli weapons manufacturers. We will also continue to support our brave actionist friends who are shutting down complicit weapons manufacturers around the world. Though public support for an Israeli weapons embargo is strong, political will is small. In order to change this, we must stand strong together. Solidarity, enter Shikari. So again, really cool to see a larger band, especially in the UK, doing this, being a part of this, and probably applying some of the biggest pressure, unless another band comes out that was kind of saying this behind the scenes as well. But this is what's really cool is this organization, Download and Bands Boycott Barclays. They did a really great job of organizing with bands, kind of getting pressure together behind the scenes and with public pressure on social media and things of that nature to really push for this, which was a great thing to see. And this was honestly not something I was expecting out of the alternative scene. I've been pretty jaded about the response to this overall. So this is a good wake up call for me too, that just because people are not at the forefront of the conversation around boycotts or around the Palestinian liberation movement, it doesn't mean that they're not necessarily pushing for things that are, worthy of compliments and worthy of praise when things like this work out well. To reference what Enter Shikari was just talking about here, I want to just make sure, in case anyone is not overly aware, to look at this concentrated list, because a lot of people share these BDS lists and it'll be a lot of different companies, and some of them, while it's important to point out all the companies that are complicit in working with Israel, whether it's on occupied land or with the weapons manufacturers, things of that nature, to look at what the BDS list is saying to target specifically. And a lot of times this is more effective than doing a broad boycott of all these different companies that actually has less impact than when you target a few. So just as a reminder, I don't know all the names of these companies here, but you can see them on the screen. Puma, SodaStream. I'm surprised I don't see Pepsi on here. That used to be one I'd see a lot. HP, Chevron, then of course restaurant chains, McDonald's, Domino's, Burger King, Pizza Hut, Papa John's, and Wix. So again, and all these links will be in the show notes as well, but just make sure if you use any of these on a regular level, whether it's Texaco, again, HP, Puma, Burger King, Papa John's, McDonald's, whatever, that these are the targeted lists as of now from the BDS movement that they want people to boycott, or at least if you're looking at some companies like Chevron or Texaco, where it might be kind of difficult, depending upon your area and choice of gasoline, things of that nature that you can purchase, to at least limit as best you can supporting these companies, to kind of apply pressure on them to stop their investments and stop their support of the Israeli genocide in Gaza. One last thing I wanted to look at here, actually two things. I wanted to look at Barclays' response, and then lastly look at what their implicity is in Israel's genocide in Gaza here. So I'm going to share this other screen here. Again, this says Barclays suspends sponsorship of Download, Latitude, and Isle of Wight festivals. This is from The Guardian. If we go down here, a spokesperson from Barclays told The Guardian Barclays was asked and has agreed to suspend participation in the remaining Live Nation festivals in 2024. So actually all of the Live Nation festivals in 2024. Barclays customers who hold tickets to these festivals are not affected and their tickets remain valid. The protesters' agenda is to have Barclays debank defense companies, which is a sector we remain committed to as an essential part of keeping this country and our allies safe. So again, not like this company has changed its ways or anything like that, but they are being vilified, which is a great start. They said this part was so funny to me. It's like they're seething in real time. They have resorted to intimidating our staff, repeated vandalism of our branches, and online harassment. Ooh. The only thing the small group of activists will achieve is to weaken essential support for cultural events enjoyed by millions. It is time that leaders across politics, businesses, academia, and the arts stand united against this. This is really funny because this would kind of imply that download isn't happening, like as if Barclays is essential for Live Nation festivals to exist. It's completely hilarious. In response, here the protest group Bands Boycott Barclays says this is a victory for the Palestinian-led global BDS movement. As musicians, we are horrified that our music festivals were partnered with Barclays, who are complicit in genocide in Gaza through investment, loans, and underwriting of arms companies supporting the Israeli military. Hundreds of artists have taken action this summer to make it clear that this is morally reprehensible, and we are glad we have been heard. So again, they kind of spelled it out there, but I just wanted to pull up the Palestinian article on this real quick. That shows, the logo of Barclays, which is this bank that funds a lot of horrific defense contracts and things of that nature. It says Barclays is bankrolling Israel's genocidal assault on Palestinians through its financial ties with arms companies that sell weapons to Israel. So again, this is not even not that I would dissuade against this, but this is like they're directly implicit in funding weapons that Israel is using to bomb civilians and decapitate children. So again, Barclays propped up apartheid in South Africa, but today they've invested over 2 billion euros in companies arming Israeli apartheid. So again, this is no small company, and this is no small feat to see how complicit they are in this and how directly connected they are to deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. So let's check this video out here, and then after that, I'll just share what people should do in response to this.
Black South Africans lived under white supremacist rule, apartheid. They called for international action to support their struggle for freedom. In the years that followed, people of conscience in Britain responded, building the anti-apartheid movement. They took action in solidarity with the struggle in South Africa against companies that supported and propped up racist oppression. Professor Salim Valley was a leading figure in the South African students' movement in the 1970s.
It made a difference for us who were in South Africa. People around the world started gravitating towards the boycott movement, and it pushed governments to take a stand, many reluctantly.
One of the key targets of the anti-apartheid movement was Barclays Bank, the biggest high street bank in South Africa.
They actively supported the South African army, the military, by providing a number of loans. They produced a range of booklets, incredible guidelines to immigrate to South Africa, of course for white people. And I can go on. So they are really complicit in our oppression.
From 1970, campaigners demanded that Barclays end its support for apartheid. Across Britain, people organised regular pickets of Barclays branches, calling for a boycott of the bank. Eventually it worked, and in 1986, Barclays withdrew from South Africa. Today, Palestinians draw on this inspiring legacy of struggle. They call on people around the world to take action against corporations and financial institutions that support Israel's regime of apartheid and occupation. Shockingly, this once again includes Barclays Bank.
What Barclays is doing now is a redux, it's a repeat of what they've done in South Africa.
Our research shows that Barclays invests over £1 billion in companies supplying weapons and military technology to Israel. This includes Elbit Systems, who make deadly equipment such as drones, which are used in Israel's repeated bombing of the besieged Gaza Strip.
I think really people need to be outraged. It's making money out of people's blood and pain. there is absolutely no justification.
Once again, Barclays is banking on apartheid. We demand that Barclays stop facilitating Israel's crimes against Palestinians.
The struggle against apartheid is not over. It's alive and well in another country.
All right. So again, this just kind of shows how, one, they said over 1 billion. Now it's invested over 2 billion euros in companies arming Israeli apartheid. And this kind of shows that this bank, no surprise that a massive bank has a track record like this over decades, but that they've learned nothing. And they are kind of repeating the same process of just bankrolling military that is contributing to genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and just completely eviscerating an entire group of people. So again, last thing I just wanted to really sail home for people is, or two things, is again, this kind of goes to show, whether it's Enter Shikari, Dying Wish, some of these other bands, that some of them were more vocal about this, some of them were not prior, but pressure to the wallet is what is really important in these struggles. As much as posting online, sharing videos, sharing awareness, all that is great to try to get more people onto this movement and away from the sort of narrative that, you know, Israel's good, Palestinians bad, or whatever Western media shows. The wallet is what's going to stop this. You know, countries like the United States, the UK, Israel, they don't really care if people find them reprehensible as long as they can continue to do what they can do. But if you can cut off or apply pressure to these companies that are backing this financially, that is the way to go to push real change forward. And that's why I encourage people to check out that BDS list again. I'll put the BDS movement main website in the notes. If you're not overly familiar with the work there, it's Palestinian-led, Palestinian-based, Palestinian-focused, which is another big thing to pay attention to when you're doing this, is that you should be listening to Palestinian voices, because there are, of course, grifters that try to use this to make their own buck, which is reprehensible. But again, shout out to Dying Wish, shout out to Skal, shout out to all these different bands, Enter Shikari, for applying the pressure and doing the correct thing here. Hopefully we can see this more going forward, to where we can vilify these companies enough that they stop doing what they're doing, stop supporting with money, with resources, with any other thing that they're contributing to the Israeli cause that is causing the deaths of tens of thousands and displacement of millions. So again, Free Palestine, look at the BDS movement, go to ceasefiretoday.com, support these bands, make sure that we know and make sure that they know that they have public support after this, because the more people feel emboldened to continue to do these sort of things in the music community, the more the music community can make a real impact on the lives of innocent people that are being vilified, being brutalized, and deserve their own autonomy and their own safety.